Well, good morning, and we want to welcome you to the Indiana Clean School Bus Consortium webinar. My name is Carl Lissick, Director with Drive Clean Indiana, and the Drive Clean Indiana team will be acting as your host and administrative sponsor for this and all upcoming Indiana Clean School Bus Consortium events. We have a great webinar today, and I just wanted to go through the agenda real quick. We're going to do some welcome and housekeeping, and then we're going to have a presentation by Mr. John Kenny, Monroe County Community School Corporation, and then by ROUSH CleanTech, Mr. Todd Mouw, US EPA, Carter Granberg, and Tony Maeda, and grant assistance by Drive Clean Indiana. With that, I just wanted to make sure that you are muted throughout the meeting. We will begin everyone in the mute mode without cameras, but we'll open it up during the question and answer time. You will be able to type in any of your questions, and we will get to as many questions as we can. If we don't get to your question, we will provide you with an email answer. Today's presentation will be about 45 minutes, followed by a question and answer period, as well as a short survey. We would ask all of our participants to take the short survey. All additional questions can be emailed to info@drivecleanindiana.org. This presentation is being recorded and will be posted to the Drive Clean Indiana website. All the upcoming announcements, including events, grants, projects, and pertinent information, will be on our website. If you have any questions, please feel free to call us for further clarification at 219-644-3690. So just a little overview on the Indiana Clean School Bus Consortium. It's a collaboration of federal, state, and local agencies and concerned citizens with communities, nonprofit organizations, and private companies here in Indiana and the United States, working together to make a visible difference in our communities by reducing exposure to emissions from school bus, diesel engines, and equipment. Our goal also is to highlight the great projects and technologies being implemented in our state and provide you with resources that will assist you in learning about these new technologies that includes health concerns, peer-to-peer interaction, overviews and demonstrations of these technologies, as well as best management practices. With that, I would like to turn it over now to Mr. Sean Seals. Sean.
Thank you, Carl. I just wanted to have a brief congratulatory comment or two as we pass it off to John Kenny from Monroe County Schools. In partnership with Drive Clean Indiana, IDEM was very proud to be able to help Monroe County Schools kind of get started down this EV bus path with the Volkswagen Environmental Mitigation Trust Fund program. It was exciting to get a couple of those buses out there on the road to prove that they are viable. And we're really excited to hear about and work with John and the gang down there to continue to expand on that EV bus fleet. And also want to say hi to Todd. I know that we have done a ton of propane school buses across the state of Indiana. And as always, it's been a great pleasure working with you too, and we hope we can see a lot more of that in our future. So with that, I'll go ahead and pass it on to John, and John, you can get started with your presentation.
Thank you, Sean. And thank you, Carl, for inviting us to be a part of this presentation. My name's John Kenny. I'm the Chief Financial Officer and in some sense, project administrator for the infrastructure and the purchasing of the electric buses that is a part of Monroe County School Corporation's vision for a fully electric fleet here over the next number of years. And again, happy to be presenting here today. Monroe County's main city is Bloomington, Indiana, home of Indiana University. A little background, we are currently at about 10,250 students. We have a nice mix of city and rural routes as part of our transportation daily pickups. We are 23 schools. We have approximately 85 bus routes and approximately 100 buses in our transportation fleet. We currently have 14 EV buses. As Sean mentioned, we started with the VW Mitigation Trust, and sometimes coincidences are kind of stunning, but the DERA reimbursement that I've been working on with Mr. Mayetta actually hit our bank account this morning. So thank you to him for helping us guide through the reimbursement on our next 2 EV buses, which had put us up to 3. We purchased 10 last fall, hoping for EPA reimbursement money, which did not come through for us. And then we have of our next round of 10 for this fall, we worked with Curlin's buses to get one of the buses ahead of time. So our fleet is currently at 14 EV buses. We did an all-electric summer, we called it, where all of our summer school and summer routes were run by EV buses only. It helped get over some of the tentativeness of drivers to accept or adopt or want to drive the EV buses. They, in a sense, said, we're running EV buses, so it'd be nice if you want to take your seniority and drive the EV buses this summer. If not, somebody else will. So that impetus to get some maybe naysayers or people who weren't fully on board, they drove all summer, they loved them, they all want to stay with the EV buses into the fall on their regular routes. As part of our infrastructure plan, we are currently putting up a bus canopy. The structure is taking shape right now. It's 600 feet long, 90 feet wide. It will hold 48 buses underneath of it. We have 20 dual, which will charge 40 buses, dual bus fast chargers in place. Not operational yet. I mean, they could be, but the infrastructure is taking place currently and will be ready by 10/31/23 to charge 40 buses, of which we will have 23 ready to go at that point. The MCCSC, Monroe County Community School Corporation, our goal is to be fully electric in about 6 more years. That will take roughly 10 a year to get to that goal. In addition, we have plans for a second canopy to charge 48 additional buses available fall of 2026. Our solar canopies will be able to sell back to the grid during peak times in the summer once operational. A little more information. As I said, the first canopy is taking shape as we speak. Part of what we had to do, we had a slideshow that's going to be set after, or actually a video set after this meeting. So it won't be shown at this time. However, we had to relocate about 50 buses in order to get the canopy, which will cover about half our buses. We've relocated them to about a quarter mile away to an alternative owned property that's working pretty well towards the end of last year and will be needed through maybe mid-October, maybe October 31st in this year. Our transportation building and our administration building are close enough to the canopy that they are all going to feed into the same transformers and sell power back to the grid as needed, along with the canopy, which will have solar panels all across the top. We have received funding offsets for our first 3 EV buses. Unfortunately, we did not receive funding from the EPA last fall, which would have covered, we applied for 25 buses, so it would have covered roughly 2.5 years of our planned purchasing. We will apply for 25 again this fall. We're working with Clean Cities, Ryan Lissick, to make that application. We do have some offset funding for the bus canopy, in a sense, the infrastructure with Verigy Energy. It's about 25 to 30% of the total costs that are funded. And we're working with a variety of providers, including Verigy, Curlin's, Drive Clean Indiana, and others, to maximize our funding to reduce costs both in the infrastructure that we're putting up and the EV buses that we are seeking to purchase over the next 6 years. In summary, it's a very exciting project. We're glad to be able to share some of the parameters with you today. Thank you for listening, and be a part of any questions either now or at the end of this meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Kenny. Again, if you have questions, you can start listing those in the chat, and we'll get to those after our presentations. And if you have any questions, please put those in the chat, and we will get to those. So now I'd like to introduce Mr. Todd Mouw. He is with ROUSH CleanTech. Todd?
Thanks, Carl. Appreciate it. And thank you for letting a Wolverine here into the Hoosier State today. Appreciate it. And John, great presentation. Way to tip of the spear, leading folks to change, which is what I'm going to talk about as a part of my presentation. So it's you have to be willing to get out and be on the forefront and drive change, and you're doing it. So congratulations to you and your district. Click, please, Megan. So as Carl mentioned, I'm Todd Mouw, EVP of Sales and Marketing here at ROUSH CleanTech. I've been here since 2009, so really at the forefront of a lot of this clean energy transformation we've seen.
It looks like we might have lost Todd's audio. Can anybody hear him?
The newest addition to the ROUSH family is ROUSH CleanTech, formed back in 2010, which we'll talk about today. Click, please. So obviously working for a guy like Jack Roush, it's all about a scorecard and our results. And I think especially the listeners here today, this transition from diesel to EV and propane, I think finding partners that you can trust and count on that have built a foundation that can make sure you guys have buses up and running safely for your students, reducing costs and emissions is important. So we've been doing this a long time. I've known Carl and his team a long time. So today we've got a combination of 45,000 school buses and commercial vehicles all over the United States and every province in Canada. Almost 3 billion miles now with over 3,500 fleets. So I think it's the comfort level of knowing that anybody who's willing to transition from from diesel into EV or propane, that there's a comfort level that we've been there, done that, and have the resources there to support that transition. Click, please. So specifically school buses, we've been partnering with Bluebird for well over a decade. So again, driving that message home, we'll talk more specifically about Indiana later in this presentation. But more than 20,000 units on the road in all applications across all states except Mississippi and all provinces in Canada. So it's a wide adoption in every duty cycle and every different temperature across all of North America. So, and again, you guys in Indiana have been at the forefront of that adoption, which we appreciate very much. Click, please. So just a little bit of background. So we've been Ford's engineering partner for now almost 50 years since the company's been around, but ultimately everything we do is based on a Ford powertrain, whether that's in a Ford commercial vehicle, which you see on the left, or a Bluebird Type A through Microbird, or a Bluebird conventional bus on the far right. Everything purpose-built, purpose-designed, purpose-integrated into those products so that the benefits of propane are maximized for you, the end user. That's both from a performance perspective, serviceability, emissions reduction, and cost reduction. Click, please. So specifically about Bluebird, as I mentioned, we started back with Bluebird engineering, developing the product in 2010, 2011, officially launched back in 2012 with the old 6.8, which I know quite a few of you on this call are running propane-powered 6.8s in your fleet. Thank you very much. Back in 2020, Ford transitioned to this Godzilla engine, which has been a fantastic V8 engine integrated in all our commercial vehicles as well as this Bluebird school bus. So you see there's really no compromise, any wheelbase configurations. It's Ford's commercial 6-speed automatic transmission. We offer multiple fuel tank capacities, which depending on the wheelbase, all the way up to extended, which can give you 400 plus miles of range. Everything's certified to EPA and CARB. And I think the most important thing we'll touch on a couple times in this presentation is our standard certification for 2023 is 0.02 grams NOx. So between EPA and CARB, there's a big push coming the next couple of years to reduce that number down to 0.035 grams per brake horsepower hour. So the comfort level of fleets wanting to adopt this technologies we already meet actually exceed that requirement at 0.02 grams NOx starting for 23. Click, please. This is the Type A variant based on the 4D450. We've got quite a few of these available. We've got one fuel tank configuration, 41 usable gallons. Based on fuel economy, probably 5.5 to 6 miles of range. So 250 miles of range on that product. Again, just like its Type C conventional counterpart, everything's EPA and CARB certified, as well as certified to that same 0.02 grams NOx standard. Click, please. So at ROUSH, it's interesting. We're big purveyors and believe in electric, a lot in hydrogen fuel cell. The bigger ROUSH is involved in helping a lot of these startup mobility companies to design, develop, and bring products to market. And when we look at it, obviously, it's been a predominantly diesel market over the last 30, 40 years. And as that transition's happening, ultimately, Cummins still makes a great engine, but as the regulations change around NOx and CO2, the market's going to shift. And it's going to be propane, EV, maybe future state hydrogen fuel cell and some natural gas. And so we looked at it from a technical perspective and just thought, boy, propane wasn't getting the visibility that we thought it should when we first started back with Bluebird in 2011, 2012. But we looked at all the check boxes, just the ease of adoption, energy independence, the NOx emissions, which I referenced, ease of infrastructure. Propane companies are more than willing to put infrastructure in for little to no cost. Significant TCO benefit, range, as I mentioned, 400 plus miles of range. It's a base gasoline engine, so maintenance is very similar to what a technician would see with gasoline. Obviously, anything specific to propane will train free of charge. Very scalable. We've had fleets start with 1 or 2, and we've got fleets that now have over 1,000. And then obviously in Indiana, which is important with cold weather, there's no compromise in cold weather with propane school bus technology. Click, please. So why propane? Again, we kind of boil it back down to, we talked about the cleanliness, the NOx emissions, obviously particulate matter, CO2 reductions, affordable. I mean, as a country, we're awash in propane. We'll talk more about it here in a second. We export 20 billion, that's a B, gallons a year of propane out of this country to other countries that are using it for transportation and other needs. So we've got a ton of it, which drives price stability. And obviously it's a domestic solution. Click, please. As I mentioned, that we produce 30 billion gallons, we only use 10. So a lot of fleets ask us, well, as we adopt more and more propane vehicle technology, what will that do to my fuel price? Will that impact my TCO, which looks really great now? And the answer is no, it's not going to impact it because we've got such a vast supply of propane in this country. That's going to drive price stability compared to what you see in the blue and black bar there for gasoline and diesel. So the TCO, I would estimate that probably based on today's fuel prices, you're saving at least $4,000 per year per school bus by running on propane. Click, please. Obviously, we talked about the NOx piece of it, very important. I think coming and working for Jack, obviously his racing heritage, his hot rod heritage, that's left quite a carbon footprint. So what we're doing on the CleanTech side to help communities and school districts clean up their carbon footprint is very important. So when you look at the NOx reduction, as I mentioned, we're already at 0.02 grams NOx, which is 90% cleaner than the current standard of 0.2, and already in advance of the future standards that CARB and EPA have at 0.035 grams for 2027. Click, please. Just touches on, again, this is our certification for the 23 mile year engine, just in regards to reduction of all the critical emissions that EPA and CARB look at. So again, significant reduction in all the key categories. We're not zero emission, but ultimately significantly better than gas and diesel. And there's a growing push on renewable propane as well, which will further reduce the carbon intensity and the emissions profile of propane in your fleet. Click, please. Go ahead and click again. So what's really driving, actually go back if you wouldn't mind one, Megan, just if you don't mind, just to drive home what's coming. So I referenced it earlier that obviously Cummins and the diesel engine manufacturers build a great engine, but the regulations that are put in place by carbon EPA are driving significant costs and complexity into all the engines, specifically though diesel. We've heard from a couple different manufacturers that by 27, that incremental cost for the technology could be $25,000 to maybe $30,000 per engine. That's for the technology as well as for the additional warranty obligation they have. And so obviously, I think, I'm not going to predict, but ultimately I think it becomes a two-horse race as we get to the end of this decade. It's going to be propane and EV will be the lead energy sources for transportation. It's really being driven by these regulations. It'll continue to get more and more stringent. Click, please. Infrastructure, as I mentioned, really easy. I think that's one of the benefits of propane. Obviously, already a lot of infrastructure out there. Most of our fleets are hub and spoke. They're putting infrastructure in at their schoolyard. In most cases, obviously, other than running electric and putting crash bollards in, the propane companies are willing to put that infrastructure in for little to no cost. You can start small and increase as your fleet size increases as well, again, with minimal impact to your bottom line. Click, please. This is just another example. So I think those that are implementing EV school buses, this is another option for an off-grid. So we talk about resiliency. If the grid were to lose power, this is another way potentially to charge your EV school buses as well as fuel your propane school buses. So this is not a ROUSH solution, but this is just the propane industry looking at ways to help the EV push by offering a off-grid fueling solution that's driven by wind and solar as well as backup propane power generation. So cool new technology that was unveiled out at ACT in California back in May. Click. TCO, again, the alt fuel tax credit is still in play, and Carl and his team, obviously, as you guys go through and walk through the TCO, either with McAllister, our Bluebird partner dealer, or with Carl's team or ours, we can walk you through the TCO. But the 36 cents per gallon rebate is still in place through the end of 24. There's an infrastructure rebate tax credit as well. As I mentioned, that's probably less relevant just because of the low cost of infrastructure that propane companies are willing to cover. But that fuel tax credit is more like icing on the cake. Even without that, the savings versus gas and diesel are so significant that you'd want to do it, even if this tax credit doesn't get passed for 25 and beyond. Click, please. And thank you to Indiana. This is a testament to McAllister and Carl and all the great work, Sean, and your team at IDEM. The implementation of almost 400 propane school buses, 279 gasoline buses across 50 school districts all over the state. So hopefully it's not just hearing from folks like us at ROUSH or McAllister or Carl, the peer-to-peer communication about how great the technology is, how good our support is, and how viable this is long-term will come from your peers across the state. Click, please. This is just a list of some of those districts. I know I'm running tight on time, so if you want to click one more time, Megan. This is should be, I think, my last slide. This just gives a reference to one of our districts actually up in Minnesota. So we had some questions around total cost of ownership as well as durability. So I think what's important to point out, you see that 250,000 miles log. Question is, how long do these buses last? We've got some great case studies of some higher mileage units. Do they start in the cold? No issues, starting down to almost negative 40 degrees Fahrenheit, and then a 67% savings on fuel. So that's a, and then when you talk about the emissions reduction with our certification at 0.02 grams NOx, that's a grand slam in our book. Click, please. So finally, we get asked the question, is propane a bridge or a destination? And I think obviously EV has such a bright future, but really what we're talking about is transition away from diesel. And so we think it's probably not going to be a silver bullet. It's going to be a combination of a couple solutions like EV and propane, maybe natural gas. But ultimately, why we think it's a destination is the supply, which drives the price. We have a path to near zero with renewable propane, easy infrastructure, it's safe. We've got a built-in resiliency, and then we're not compromising the way that vehicle performs, both from a horsepower and torque standpoint or its range. Click, please. And thank you, Carl and team, for letting me come speak, and I'll turn it on back to you for the next speaker.
Thank you, Todd. Thank you very much. And folks, just a reminder, if you have any questions for our speakers, please put those in the chat. And now I'd like to take this opportunity to introduce the US EPA, Carter Granberg. Carter?
Hi, thank you, Carl. So today I'm going to be speaking just generally about some of the EPA's programmatic updates to the Clean School Bus Program, talk about funding opportunities, what we're expecting for time horizons going forward over the next few months for both the grants and rebates program. So with that, I'll just jump on in. So just a quick reminder off the top, we are currently in the window for 2023 grant program applications. That window is open until August 22nd. So if you are a school district or you're working with the school district on applying, make sure that those documents are submitted by that date. We said this last time we talked, but just carefully review that notice of funding opportunity NOFO and ensure that you're an eligible entity. Grants are a bit of a bear, and we'd hate to see you put in all this time and effort to go for a school bus only to find out afterwards that you weren't actually eligible. The rebate program that we expect to be announced this fall might be more appropriate if that winds up being a problem for you in terms of eligibility. So definitely keep your eyes out for that. We'll be regularly updating you on that info, but just make sure you pick an avenue that's more appropriate for your school type and eligibility. And you are able to apply for both. So if you're eligible for the grants, you're able to apply for the grants as well as the rebates. And if you have any questions in reviewing that notice of funding opportunity or the grant online, you can reach out to the general cleanschoolbus@epa.gov email with any questions. So just wanted to highlight what some of the changes were in prioritization status between the rebate program and the grant program. In case people weren't aware, prioritization status is key in getting selected for these school buses. We were looking at the numbers here. So you can stop right there. Perfect. Thank you. Yeah, so we were looking at the numbers, and it looks like the vast majority of selected school buses from the last round of rebates were priority schools. So not to say you shouldn't apply if you are a non-priority school, but if you are one of these 4 priority status categories, it would definitely be in your benefit to apply. So just to highlight what some of the changes are between the grants and rebate program. For the rebate program, if you are considered an in-need school as having 20% more student body in, or school district, 20% more of your student body in poverty, you'd be considered a priority school. This will stay the same between both programs. If you are a rural school district in the rebate program, if you are rural code 43 or 42, you are priority. Under the grant program, they're looking at just the most remote rural, so that 43 code only for priority status. Tribal schools will be kept the same, so tribal school districts will have priority status. And the new big change to the grant program that we're seeing is school districts where they have at least one school receiving Title I funding, and they have a district of 35,000 or more students or 45 or more schools can self-certify as a priority school and apply for that grant. So just something to keep in mind if you are one of the school districts or a third party working with a school district. Oh, okay. So I also wanted to provide this information for anyone on the call that might be interested. I believe the slides are going to be sent out. EPA has published the list of school districts and their states and locations that they consider priority under the grant program. So I posted the direct link to that Excel file. If you are looking at targeting schools or reaching out and contacting schools, this would be a useful document for the grant program. We expect a similar document to go out once the rebate program is live with the priority schools for the rebates. So definitely something to keep an eye on if you're planning to do outreach. Overall grant info, I threw that link in there too, if that's something you're interested in reading more about. Like I said, with the rebate program, we have limited details. We are hopeful that by the next coalition meeting, I'll have a much bigger update where I can spend the whole time talking about the rebate program and kicking that off. What we do know is that it is expected to open sometime in the fall, and we expect to strongly mirror the 2022 rebate program. There might be some programmatic changes in terms of priority schools or eligibility or funding, but as of what we've been told so far, we're expecting a very similar program. And then what would change for prioritization between 2022 and 2023 rebate? They're going to be updating that in-need data. So before they had used 2020 data, They are going to now be using SAPE's 2021 data. There's a little bit of a lag between when the data is published. So 2021 would be the most current for this program. And then again, it'd be anyone under the 2021 data that has a school district with 20% or more students living in poverty. We assume all other factors are going to potentially stay the same, but again, don't quote me on that. There is the potential of these being changed at the last minute, right before the program goes live. And we will update you on that if they do. So we will share the school districts. Like I posted that Excel document for the grant program, I'll post that for the rebate program the second we have it. So anyone in here interested in outreach will have that valuable resource. And like I just said on the previous slide, we're anticipating these priority applicants to be very similar, but we'll keep you updated if there are any changes. Just some housekeeping throughout the end of most of my presentations here. Sign up for the Clean School Bus listserv if you haven't. It's linked there when you get a copy of the slides. You can stay up to date through email on any changes or announcements of due dates and program launches. You can check our website at epa.gov/clean-school-bus for general updates. If you have questions, feedback, concerns about the grant or the program, there is a very responsive team working at headquarters at that Clean School Bus at epa.gov, so don't hesitate to reach out there. They'll either put you in contact with someone who knows the answer or forward you to one of the regional contacts that can more directly work with you. But reach out to regional staff programs as well. Tony Maeda, who's also on this call, runs a monthly bipartisan infrastructure law clean school bus call. So you can email him at maeda.anthony@epa.gov to get invited onto that call if you want more information and related programs. And if you are a school district or if you are working with a school district, make sure you check that your SAM.gov registration is up to date now. It can take quite some time for that registration to be updated, and it would really be terrible if you made it all the way, you had your grant accepted, you went through all this work only to find out you weren't going to be able to get your buses because of some administrative holdback on your SAM.gov account. So just double check that. Also, if you are looking at a grant, make sure similarly your grants.gov account is updated. And I believe that is all I had for today.
Well, thank you, Carter. And appreciate Todd and John and Sean and Carter for their presentations. Again, I know we've got some questions that are coming in through the chat. So if you've got questions, please forward those to us now. And again, I just to add, part of the Indiana Clean School Bus Coalition is to assist any of our schools here in Indiana with potentially grant applications. So we've had a very significant role helping with the transition of our schools to clean school buses in the state. So please feel free to reach out to us. We'd like to be a support to any of our school districts here in our state. So next slide. So the next thing that you would do is, if you're interested, please reach out to us and schedule a meeting with one of our teammates. We would help you with the inventory of your buses and determine your replacement needs, and help you with conducting an inventory. And then again, as the presenters have talked about, the grant is actually due August 22nd. So again, Drive Clean Indiana is coordinating a grant application here in the state of Indiana. And if you're interested, please reach out to us, and we'd love to participate. We'd love to have your school district participate with us. So next slide. So again, just some information on Drive Clean Indiana. Next slide. And questions. Again, we are here to facilitate introductions and information with the various providers of clean school buses in our state, and to highlight the successful projects that have already been funded, not only through EPA, but also through IDEM and the VW mitigation. And please feel free to reach out to any of us. Next slide. So just to let you all know, our next Indiana Clean School Bus Coalition meeting will be on September 12th. Now there's a chance, and we'll reach out to you, there's a chance that we will do this in person and on September 12th, but we'll have more information. So we'll send out the updates here as soon as we know whether we physically are going to meet on the 12th of September. and we'll have more information to our school districts here in the state. So Megan, why don't we read a couple questions that we have in the chat?
Okay, so I have someone that is asking if you can reiterate the basic deadlines for Drive Clean Indiana grant partners, just so they make sure they don't miss anything.
So what we're hoping is that we would love to have, if people are looking to enlist with Drive Clean Indiana, we probably would need to know as early as this Friday. We would love to have that information, or at least please get in contact with us no later than this Friday to allow us to engage. So that would be my recommendation to you.
Okay, and then a question for John. Can you please explain how your district engaged the community to secure support for the EV transition from families, board members, and community leaders?
Yeah, it's Bloomington, Indiana. It's not as hard to sell as maybe some other parts of the state, but the city has an all or predominantly EV bus fleet already. Board is 7 people who are all in. Community, there's been no pushback. There wasn't a direct outreach program to get their buy-in in any way, but at every opportunity we can, we let groups and people know the plan and where we're heading, and in a sense the benefits to clean air and clean air directly around certain schools where buses might otherwise be running and sitting for a while. So it hasn't been a hard sell at all in Bloomington, and our superintendent, Dr. Oswald, is it's his vision to become an all EV fleet. So if I missed any part of that question, I apologize, but I think that covered it.
Thank you. And just a reminder, Mr. Kenny and Dr. Oswald will be participating on a Clean School Bus panel that we will have at our upcoming annual conference and expo. So you can register on our website or scan that QR code to register, and then you can get a little bit more in-depth conversation with them at our conference. Another question that has come in is, what percentage of the awards were EV versus propane last round?
So for the EPA's rebate program, I think it was like 95% were electric, and about 5% were either propane or CNG. The vast majority of folks who applied did apply for EVs, which is what made it that way.
Okay. A couple of people are asking if we can email the presentation, which we will do. You'll get an email from Drive Clean Indiana with the link for the presentation and recording. I have another question that has come in. If you had one recommendation for a school district moving to a clean school bus, what would that be? And that would be for John or Todd.
John, you want to start? I can.
Yeah, certainly administration buy-in. You have to want to do it as an administration. And then you have to have board buy-in. You have to have a sense of what your community would push back on or not, certainly. Like I say, we didn't have that issue in Bloomington, but some communities might. And then we've just taken a different tact where if we had been, well, what will they fund? What will EPA fund? What will VW? Will VW give us another bus? Will DERA program? Will infrastructure cover it? We would probably in 10 years be at 7 buses. Or I'm joking a little bit, but the drip, drip, drip of waiting, we would never get to a full electric fleet in the world I envision at the moment. So we're doing it. We sure hope people are on board and will support us along the way and be excited by what we're doing. But if you can have an administration, a community that is all in no matter what, sure makes it a lot easier.
Yeah, I think that's well said, John. I mean, I think having the buy-in is important, and we spend a lot of time with McAllister and with districts, not only at the top, but also technicians, drivers, making sure they understand what they're going to encounter, because, you know, getting them bought in and that input and that feedback back into the final decision makers is important. I think the other piece is just doing your homework with the technology providers, right? I mean, I think ultimately people want to sell you something, but come take a tour of our place or of any technology provider to see what the tools are there that have been developed to support that transition. Matter of fact, McAllister, our Bluebird dealer, they're going to bring a bunch of customers up here on August 23rd. By all means, jump on the bus with them and come visit, right? So it's everything from how we manufacture, how we design it, the traceability of it, tools available for technicians, all the training, first responders, the drivers. I think you want to find a partner, whether it's Roush or anybody else, that has that all those boxes checked and they've got investment there to support that transition. Because the last thing you want to do is make that transition, and then a year or two down the road, they're no longer there to support you. So find that technology provider that's there for the long term.
Thank you. We still have quite a few questions, and I hope to get through as many of them as we can. If we don't get to them, please feel free to email them to us at info@drivecleanindiana.org, and we will be sure to respond. The next question is, we are starting to hear about technology partners in the industry having financial issues. What are the recommendations on how a school should incorporate that into their thinking and planning?
Yeah, I kind of just referenced, and John, you probably have some feedback on it. I mean, obviously, probably everybody saw the news about Proterra going bankrupt today. Ultimately, there's going to continue to be a lot of shakeup across all the different energy types, EV, traditional internal combustion engine manufacturers, just because there's so much coming at everybody, along with COVID supply chain issues, right? And then just the regulatory changes. So I think there are plenty of companies that do it the right way. Obviously, you got one in Indiana, Cummins, they do a great job. We at Roush have invested. We've been around 50 years, plan on being here the next 50 years. So I think there's a lot of due diligence that Carl Lissick's team can help you do and make sure you pick that right partner so that you don't step in a pothole. That would be my recommendation, John.
Yeah, I would agree. We're certainly combined in the infrastructure with Verigy, putting in our infrastructure, nationwide respected provider, and certainly currently working with or our provider on buses for a long time. And I believe, largest EV provider in the state of Indiana is Curlin's, both for diesel and EV. They've been our provider for number of years. So.
Thank you. For Sean, do you have any updates on if there will be another round of Volkswagen mitigation funding for Indiana for clean school buses?
Yes, we do expect later this year to have another round of funding. To what extent it will be applicable to clean school buses or not, we do not yet know, but it's highly likely that they will be a part of it.
Thank you. For EPA, if I have a gasoline bus, how do I take advantage of the upcoming EPA grants?
Sorry, Mike was queued off there. If you have a gasoline bus, you could, under the current program, Tony might be able to speak to the additional programs, but under the current Clean School Bus program, you'd be able to either apply for a grant, assuming you were an eligible entity, or look under the rebate program and apply. And the main qualifications there is that you're going to replace an old predecessor bus. So I believe that would be allowed, right, Tony?
I think so, and I'm furiously trying to open up the no phone. Actually, here, I got it here. I will say for our other programs, while I'm looking this one up, it would be DERA that would unfortunately not be eligible to have a gasoline school bus in the beginning because it's the Diesel Emission Reduction Act. I don't know about about the gasoline for rebates, I would say, hey, you know, I think we're gonna have to follow up with you on that one. Like Carter indicated, I think there might be some way under the BIL program. But my understanding is mostly they're diesel buses that have to be the original bus. But again, we'll follow up and get you that clarified answer.
Thank you. And then last question, can you please send a reminder or state a reminder of the last day to submit a question to the Clean School Bus Grant Program?
Yeah, the program closes August 22nd. So if you are trying to submit and get an answer before then, I would say August 22nd, maybe give them a few days earlier even to answer. But that email, that cleanschoolbus at epa.gov is going to be open for the foreseeable future. And you can pose questions at any time, even after the program closes. That gasoline question, for example, could be answered pretty quickly through that email address as well.
Any other
Thanks.
questions?
Yep.
Yeah, and you know, everything I'm looking at, because you know, the buses to be replaced, they must be a vehicle model year 2010 or older diesel powered school bus. If you don't have an eligible 2010 or older diesel school bus and you're requesting a zero emission bus, so only if you're applying for DEVs, the Carter did get this right, you can scrap a 2010 or older non-diesel internal combustion engine bus, or you can scrap or sell or donate a 2011 or newer diesel or non-diesel internal combustion engine bus. So you can, if you don't have, you should look at your diesel buses first. But if you don't have diesel buses and you have internal combustion engine buses that are not diesel, you can apply for electric buses to replace them.
Thank you, Tony. Any other questions, Megan?
That is all that have come through.
Well, again, I just want to thank our speakers, Todd, John, Carter, Tony, and Sean for another great day learning about clean school bus transportation in our Hoosier state. And we look forward, hopefully, to see many of you at our August 23rd annual conference and expo. So we will have some breakout sessions. And then our next scheduled Indiana Clean School Bus Coalition meeting will be on September 12th. And so we are going to be meeting in person. So you'll be getting an email from us once we know the specific date. So it might be August 23rd, or it might also be September 12th. So we will be reaching out to all of you just to see if we could do an in-person meeting here in the state of Indiana, just to bring you up to date and put all of our great thought leaders into one room, and we can talk about the future of clean transportation here in our great state of Indiana. So with that, I just want to say thank you again to all of our speakers. Thank you all for participating in today's event. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us at Drive Clean Indiana, and have a great week, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Carl. Great job. See you, John.
Thanks, Carl.
Thank you.